Hey everyone, my name is Anne and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to crochet this really fluffy, puffy sweater. I'll be making a small in this video, but sizes X small to 3X large are also included in this tutorial and in the written pattern that I have linked down below. But here are the supplies you're going to be needing. So now we're going to be beginning on this pattern. I have my 8mm hook and this is the yarn that I am using. The first thing that we're going to do is make a slip knot, and you can make that slip knot however way you would like. Once you have made this slip knot, we're going to begin on the bottom border, and to do that we're going to make a chain of 6. To make a chain, all you want to do is just yarn over and pull through. That's our first chain. Again, just yarn over, pull through, and you just want to do this until you have a total of 6 chains. So that's 3, 4, 5, and then here is 6. Once you have finished up your chain of 6 beginning on row 1, we're going to skip this very first chain, and inserting a hook into the second chain, we are going to slip stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook, and to slip stitch I'm just going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops. Doing this again, I'm going to insert my hook into that next chain, yarn over and pull through both of those loops. Inserting my hook into that next chain, pull through those both loops, and then just do this into each chain across. I'm almost at the end. So here's my last chain. Now that you have made it to the end of row 1, we're now going to chain 1 and turn our work. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch for the rest of the pattern. Moving on to row 2, into this very first stitch and skipping this first chain, we're going to work 1 regular slip stitch. Into the next 4 stitches, we're going to work back bar slip stitch. To work a back bar slip stitch, instead of inserting your hook into both of those loops as you normally would, we are only going to be inserting our hook into this back loop. So I'm just going to insert, where's that back loop? I'm just going to insert into that back loop and then pull through everything. Again, insert your hook only into this back loop and then just pull through. Just into this back loop or back bar and just pull through. Do that into those 4 stitches. So you should have worked 1 regular slip stitch and then 4 back bar slip stitches. As usual, chain 1 and turn your work. Moving on to our last repeat row, which is row 3. Beginning into this first stitch and skipping this first chain, we are going to work 4 back bar slip stitches, and then into the last stitch we're going to work 1 regular slip stitch. So same thing, I'm going to insert my hook into that back loop and just work 1 and then 2, 3, 4, and then just 1 regular slip stitch just to finish this off. Chain 1 and turn your work. Now to continue the pattern for our bottom border, you want to repeat those last 2 rows with our back bar slip stitches, which is row 2 and row 3. You want to repeat those 2 rows until you have a total of 36 rows for your bottom border. I'm going to go ahead, work up my bottom border, and then I'll see you guys back once I am all done. Alrighty guys, I have now made it back here with my border. I have 36 rows in total, and I repeated the back bar slip stitches for row 2 and row 3. This is what it's looking like. So from here, we are actually not going to be cutting and fastening off just yet. We're actually going to move directly to working at the front panel from here. So let's go ahead and get started on the front panel. So now we're going to be moving on to the front panel. The first thing that we're going to do is work a foundation row. So I'm just going to chain 1, Now into each row all the way across, we're going to be working 1 single crochet per row. To show you what that's going to be looking like, into this very first row, I'm just going to insert my hook. Oops. I'm just going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through both of those loops. Moving into the next row, I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Insert my hook into that next row, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And then just continue to work these single crochets into each row all the way down your work. You should have a total of 36 stitches because we had 36 rows. So we should have 36 stitches. I'm just going to see you guys back once I have reached the end. Once you have finished working this foundation row with our single crochets all the way across, we're now just going to chain 1 and turn our work. Remember that chain 1 does not count as a stitch for the rest of the pattern. Moving on to row 1, we're going to skip this turning chain, and then inserting our hook into this first stitch, we're just going to work single crochets into each stitch all the way down our row. Now that you have reached the end of your row, just chain 1 and turn your work as usual. So to continue this pattern for our front bodice or our front panel, you just want to repeat row 1 with these regular single crochet rows until you have a total of 33 rows for your front panel. However, you can make this however long you would like. So I'm just going to go ahead and work up my 33 rows for my front panel off camera, and then I'll see you guys back once I am all done. Well guys, I have made it back here with my 33 rows with these single crochets. This is where we did the border, and then this is where we did the foundation row, and then the 33 rows of these single crochets. Now from here, we are not going to cut and fasten off just yet. We're going to be moving directly to working the shoulder strap from this point. So that is going to be the next section of the video, which is going to be the shoulder strap. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So moving directly to working the shoulder strap from our front panel, I have already chained 1, just like this, and then I already turned my work. Now beginning into this first stitch, we're going to be working those single crochets, except this time we're only going to be going into 13 stitches across our row, not all the way across, just into 13 stitches. So I'm going to work up those 13 stitches, and I'll see you guys back once I reach the end. Once you have finished these 13 stitches going across your row, into the next stitch, we're going to be working a single crochet decrease. I'm just going to move into with you guys. To work a single crochet decrease, you just want to insert your hook into that first stitch, pull up a loop. Now insert your hook into that next stitch, pull up a loop. Now you just want to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, just like this. Now just chain 1 and turn. Proceeding to row 2 for our shoulder strap. Beginning into this first stitch, we're going to work another single crochet decrease. To do that, once again, you just want to insert your hook, pull up a loop, insert your hook into that next stitch, pull up a loop. And now from here, you just want to yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Once you have worked this decrease into the first stitch, you just want to single crochet into each stitch across until you reach the end of your row. So you can just chain 1 and turn. So moving on to row 3, beginning into this first stitch, we're going to work those regular single crochets, except this time you want to wait until you have 2 stitches at the end of your row. Into those last 2 stitches, I'm going to do 1 more decrease with you guys. When you have these 2 stitches at the end of your row, We're going to do one more decrease, and then just chain and turn your work. So to continue this pattern for our first shoulder strap, you just want to repeat those two decrease rows, which is row 2 and row 3. You want to do that until you have a total of 5 rows, which for me, that's just going to be working at 2 more decrease rows to finish up this shoulder strap. But basically, you should just be decreasing on this side of your work, while this other side stays a nice, clean, straight edge. So I'm just going to work up all of my 5 rows for my decreases, and then I'll see you guys back once I am all done. So when you have finished working your 5 decrease rows, just like I have over here, we're now just going to cut and fasten off. So I'm just going to do that, and then just yarn over and just pull through to make a knot. Just like this. That is what your first shoulder strap should be looking like. So from here, we are going to move to working at the second shoulder strap on the opposite side. So let's go ahead and move on with our second shoulder strap. So now moving on with our second shoulder strap, I'm going to first make a slip knot. Now from here, you want to skip 6 unworked stitches and then insert your hook into the 7th stitch. What I mean by that is this is the first unworked stitch, so I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then once you have those 6 stitches, you just want to insert your hook into this 7th stitch, just like that. Once you have inserted your hook, just yarn over, pull through everything. Now beginning on row 1, this is very similar to what we did to the other side, by the way. Beginning on row 1, I'm just going to chain 1. Now beginning into this very first stitch, which should be the stitch that you chained, we're going to work a single crochet decrease. I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, into that next stitch, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. Now from here, you can just single crochet into each stitch across until you reach the end, chain, and then turn your work. Once you have reached the end of row 1, you should have a total of 14 stitches, just as we did for the first shoulder strap. I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now moving on to row 2, into this very first stitch, we're going to single crochet until we have 2 stitches at the end of our row. When you have these 2 stitches at the end of your row, you can go ahead and do that decrease. And then just chain and turn as usual. Moving on to our last repeat row, row 3, into this very first stitch, we're going to do that decrease. Once you completed that decrease, go ahead and just single crochet into each stitch across, chain and turn. So I'll just chain and turn my work. So to continue this pattern for our second shoulder strap, you just want to repeat those last 2 decrease rows, which is row 2 and row 3, until you have a total of 5 rows for your second shoulder strap. I'm just going to work up my 5 rows, and then I'll see you guys back. Okay guys, I have just made it back here with my second shoulder strap. As you guys can see, I did go ahead and cut and fasten off once I was all done. Now, since we have our bodice, our 2 front panels, and our bottom border, this actually completes our entire bodice. So now from here, you want to repeat doing this a second time, which I have already done. It is the same exact thing that we did before. Just working those same steps. You can go back in the video if you need. But once you have your front and back panels just like I do, we're now going to move on to working the sleeves. So now let's go ahead and move on to working the sleeves. So now we're going to be moving on with working on the sleeves. The first thing I'm going to do is, of course, make a slip knot. After this slip knot, we're going to make a chain of 36. This will be the length of our sleeve, so you can make this chain however long or short you would like. I'm making a full sleeve, so I'm going to make a chain of 36. Once you have finished working your chain of 36, beginning on row 1, we're going to skip this first chain, and inserting our hook into this second chain, we're going to slip stitch into 5 chains. So that's 1, here is 2, 3, here is 4, and then my last one. Now that I have completed the slip stitch of 5, into each chain to the end of our row, you just want to work regular single crochets. Once you reach the end, just chain 1 and turn your work as usual. So I just finished up working the single crochets. For row 1, you should have made 5 slip stitches and then single crocheted into each chain across. I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. Moving on to row number 2. Into this first stitch, we're going to work those single crochets, except this time you want to make sure that you have 5 stitches at the end of your row remaining. Once I reach those 5 stitches at the end of my row, I'm going to do back bar slip stitches with you guys. Now that I have 5 stitches at the end of my row, we're now going to do 4 back bar slip stitches. So just beginning into this first stitch, I'm going to work 4 back bar slip stitches. This is 2, 3, and then 4. You should have 1 stitch at the end of your row. Into the very last stitch, work 1 regular slip stitch, chain, and then turn your work. Moving on to row 3, into this very first stitch, we're going to work 1 regular slip stitch. Now you probably guessed it, we're going to work 4 back bar slip stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then here is 4. From here, you just want to single crochet into each stitch across, chain, and turn. So when you have reached the end of row 3, I'm just going to chain and turn. So to continue this pattern for our sleeve, all you want to do is just repeat those last 2 rows, which is row 2 and row 3. You want to repeat those 2 rows until you have a total of 21 rows for your sleeve. So I am just going to go ahead, work up my 21 rows, and then I'll see you guys back once I am all done. So this is what my work is looking like after I have finished working my 21 rows for my sleeve. Once you have worked one sleeve, you do of course want to repeat this entire process one more time, which I have already done. Just like this, now that we have 2 of our sleeves. So the next part of this video is going to be working on the collar, and that's going to be the last element of our sweater. So let's go ahead and get working on to the collar. So now we're going to be moving on to working the collar. This is very easy. It's basically the same thing that we've already been doing for the rest of this pattern. So I just made a slip knot. Once you have made that slip knot, go ahead and make a chain of 6. That's 4, 5, and then 6. Once you have your chain of 6, beginning into the second chain, we're just going to work those 5 slip stitches into each chain. Once you reach the end, just chain 1 and turn. Moving on to row 2. In this very first stitch, we're just going to work 1 regular slip stitch. Now from here, work 3 back bar slip stitches. This is 2, here is 3, and then into the very last stitch, which should be the 5th stitch, go ahead and work a regular slip stitch, chain, and then turn your work. As I mentioned, this collar is very simple. All you want to do is just repeat that row, a regular slip stitch, 3 back bar slip stitches, and then a regular slip stitch into the last stitch. Keep on repeating row 1 until you have a total of 42 rows for your collar. So I'm just going to quickly work up my collar, and then I'll see you guys back once I am all done. As you guys can see, I have made it back here with my 42 rows for my collar. Now that we have our collar, our 2 sleeves, and our 2 panels, we're now going to move directly to the last section of this video, which is going to be seaming everything together in the assembly process. So now let's go ahead and move on with those steps. So now we're going to be moving on to the assembly process. Over here I have both of my panels. And you do want to seam everything with the wrong side of your work facing you. The first thing that we're going to do for this project is I'm going to turn it to the side. You just want to, beginning into this bottom corner, you want to whip stitch all the way up the side of your work until you have 6 inches from the top remaining. So what you want to do is just take your ruler and then just count 6.5 inches from the top, and this space is going to leave room for our sleeves. You also want to do that on the opposite side as well. Just beginning into the very bottom corner, whip stitch all the way up the side until you have 6.5 inches from the top. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to whip stitch. So over here I have my yarn and my tapestry needle. I'm going to insert my tapestry needle into the first loop of the back panel, then into the first loop of the second panel, and just pull straight through. Now I'm going to come all the way back around. Oops. I'm just going to go all the way back around, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the next 2 stitches and then just pull straight through just like this. I'm going to go into the next 2 stitches and then just pull through into the next 2 stitches. Pull through. Here we are, those next 2 stitches. So this is what our whip stitch should be looking like. We have connected the front and the back panels. Do this once again until you have 6.5 inches from the top. Once you have finished seaming up your sides, the next thing you want to do is just simply whip stitch your 2 shoulder straps together. So beginning to the very top corner, just whip stitch all the way across this. On the other side as well, just whip stitch all the way across this. That is very simple. Then you can just go ahead and whip stitch your collar onto the base of the head hole. So just place it around evenly and then just whip stitch all the way around to connect the collar. The last thing you would want to do is just take your sleeve, fold your sleeve in half horizontally, beginning in one corner, go all the way across, and then once you have both of your sleeves seamed up, you can then attach it to the side of your bodice. So just attach it to the side and then whip stitch all the way around. So I hope that all made sense. So basically you want to seam both of the sides, the shoulder straps, the collar, and the sleeves, and then attach it to the bodice. So I'm going to work up everything, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I have everything all seamed up. Okay guys, so I have now made back here with my work all seamed up. The first thing that I did was that I whip stitched both of these sides together, again leaving that 6.5 inches for our sleeves. The next thing that I did is that I whip stitched all the way down the sleeves and then attached it to my bodice, as you guys can see. Did that for the other side as well, just like this. Then the last thing that I did was just whip stitch the collar right into place, and that will be the end of the tutorial. The last thing you would need to do is just weave in all of your loose ends to finish, and that's pretty much the end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I hope to see you guys back next time. Bye! Well, if you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you guys bought this pattern, it would be super helpful if you left a positive review. But that's all guys, bye!